Mascot characters have been used throughout time. Mario's been the mascot for Nintendo as long as it's had video games consoles. Ronald McDonald's been selling cheeseburgers and making kids scared of clowns since 1963. And Chuck E. Cheese for inspiring endless lore videos based on child murder. PlayStation had a few that they cycled through, from Parappa the Rapper, Gex, Crash Bandicoot, and even Polygon Man. Many of these characters have finished their adventures and closed up shop. However, there's one that's been here from the very early days of PlayStation. Let's take a look at one of those still adventuring, even after their introduction in 1998. Let's take a look at Spyro the Dragon. Welcome back to Nostalgia, where we see if classic games are as good as we remembered, or if they should stay as a memory. During PlayStation's early days, there were countless platformers. The start of the 3D era really was the Wild West of platformers, and started the 3D platformer genre. How does Spyro stack up to other classic games such as Mario 64 and Banjo-Kazooie from this era? As a quick note, I played this game through the Reignited re-release. As such, all of my views will be skewed towards that exact version of the game. Without further ado, let's take a look at Spyro 1. Spyro the Dragon is a classic example of a first-generation collectathon. The game starts with Nasty Nort casting a spell on all of the dragons with Spyro and turning them into statues, along with stealing their jewels. Now it's up to Spyro to retrieve all of the dragon eggs, stolen treasure, and to break all of his dragon friends out of their petrified prisons. In order to accomplish this daunting task, Spyro has 3 skills to aid him. First, he has the ability to jump and glide. Spyro's just a little guy and can't quite fly on command yet. He usually has to glide to parts of the map or can only fully fly in very special levels. He can charge at full speed to hit enemies with his horns. And finally, he has a fire breath. After all, he is a dragon. Of course he has fire breath. I wish he had a tail swipe, but maybe in one of the later games he can pass the dragon check. Spyro the Dragon has 6 different overworlds with several levels per overworld. The first world is Artisan World, a very gentle grassland to get an understanding of your powers. Peacemaker World, which feels like a Napoleon-era battleground. Magicrafter World, where most of the enemies are wizards and druids who control parts of the map. Beastmaker's World, which has a very Aztec vibe due to the ziggurat in the background. On top of that, it's in the middle of a bog and focuses on platforming. Dreamweaver World, which feels like a fairy tale and a castle in the clouds. This map uses unique mechanics in order to progress, such as shrinking enemies or doing tight movements while running. Finally, there's Nasty Worlds, where you take everything you learned and use it through all 3 levels. The final level consists of 4 chases to get to key locations. The first 2 are chasing 2 purple thieves through twisting corridors that get more treacherous than the last. After getting 2 keys, you can finally chase down Nork. The music for this game is a little forgettable, but that doesn't take away from my enjoyment of playing the game. It does feel like a nice garnish on a fancy dish. It's there, it's doing its job, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really need to do a whole lot. I feel like this was very typical of new IPs in the 3D era. A lot of these games just needed to be fun and playable, and not spend a ton of money on a project that might not be successful. But again, it's not like the soundtrack's bad, it's just I didn't feel much while listening to it. Here's the price point of Spyro the Dragon. It looks to be about 2 real ways to buy Spyro. If you were to buy the PlayStation 1 version of the game, it could be anywhere from about $15 to $30 USD. The Reignited trilogy is about $40 and can be purchased on every major gaming platform. And you can also play this on the PlayStation Plus subscription program, which is about $10 a month. It took me about 6 hours to beat this game, so here's the price breakdown. The PlayStation 1 version of the game would be anywhere between $2.50 to about $5 USD. The Reignited trilogy is $6.66 per hour, but that's a little unfair as this has 3 games in it. If we were to adjust the price to be about a third of what the Reignited price is, it would come down to about $13.33, and with that adjusted price, it'd be about $2.22 an hour. And finally, with a PlayStation Plus subscription, it would cost about $1.66. I'd say if you're trying to get your best bang for your buck, either the PlayStation Plus subscription or the Reignited trilogy is the best value. From what I've read, the sequels of this game sound like a great enhancement, and I might even finish this trilogy on my own time. As for the PlayStation Plus subscription, I feel like many game companies are doing a great job at having a robust back catalog as a bonus for spending money on the ability to play games online. While it's still a bit strange to try to sell online in 2023, these bonus services are a great way to justify that online price. As far as Spyro's legacy goes, this trilogy has 2 more games in it: Spyro 2, Ripto's Rage, and Spyro Year of the Dragon. From what I've read, the games introduce more characters than the random dragons that you really only meet once. They also build upon the powers of the first game and let them swim and climb ladders. In Year of the Dragon, they introduce a few more playable characters, including Sparex, the dragonfly that's always been supporting Spyro in his tales. After the first trilogy, Spyro pumped out 5 handheld games. These games were made by Digital Eclipse instead of Insomniac Games. Digital Eclipse is mostly known for creating ports for Game Boy Color and Game Boy Advance games. The first game, Spyro: Song of Ice, was meant to be a sequel to the first trilogy. This game is an isometric top-down adventure game. In this game, you have to rescue all of the frozen fairies from a Rannoch librarian named Grendor, who stole a spellbook, read it upside down, and gave themselves 2 heads, which both have a migraine. Spyro 2: Season of Fire followed, in which Spyro had his fire breath ripped away from him. In this game, the Rannochs abducted all of the fireflies from the Dragon Realm while Spyro was away. Now, no dragon can breathe fire. Now equipped with an ice breath, Spyro can freeze enemies, and must save all of the fireflies before the Dragon Realm freezes over and makes the dragons migrate to a new land. Spyro: Attack of the Rannochs, also known as Spyro's Adventure in Europe, where Spyro has to defeat Ripto, yet again, to get back a teleporting machine that was stolen from the professor. This time the game focuses a lot more on role-playing aspects than platforming. Next up, we have maybe the most unique Spyro game, which is a crossover with Crash Bandicoot. Cortex, the villain from Crash, and Ripto team up and genetically modify their minions in order to pit the 2 heroes against one another. After getting all of these handheld games out, they made a new reboot trilogy that was more combat-focused. These games are The Legend of Spyro: A New Beginning, The Eternal Night, and Dawn of the Dragons. This game introduced a black dragon named Cinder, who started as a rival and eventually becomes a friend of Spyro. And that's about it for games that have Spyro in their name, but there was actually another franchise that used Cinder as their flagship dragon, and that franchise is called Skylanders. Skylanders is a game series where you put toys on top of a portal in order to summon them into your game and play as the characters. There are 7 main series games, 6 spin-off games, and 157 Skylanders figures. I'd almost argue that Skylanders might be bigger than all of Spyro, especially when you add that they had books and a TV series. I'm actually genuinely shocked at how many games exist between these 2 series. At 20 games in 25 years, that's genuinely impressive. And by diversifying into toys, books, and a TV show, I'd be surprised if we don't see a new game for this little purple dragon. But it has also been 5 years since his last appearance. As a singular game, I don't think Spyro the Dragon's anything special. It's a very basic platformer that are a dime a dozen from this era. However, this franchise sounds like a poster child of building upon its predecessor. The second and third games sound like an absolute blast and worth the playthrough. While I'd say skip this game, I think dismissing the entire franchise is a mistake. Maybe one day I'll play through some of the other games and talk about them, but until then, that's all we got. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Weemba, and I will see you on December 29th for our next video. Without further ado, here's your hint for the next video. Take it easy, everybody, and I'll see you then.